It was a crisp, quiet morning in Los Angeles. The kind of morning where the city, still shaking off the remnants of sleep, is just beginning to stir. In the Leimert Park neighborhood, a young mother named Betty Bersinger pushed her 3-year-old daughter in a stroller down Norton Avenue, likely thinking of errands, breakfast, or just enjoying the cool air. But in one horrifying moment, her peaceful routine was shattered. She stopped in her tracks. Lying in a vacant lot just off the sidewalk was what she first assumed was a discarded mannequin, pale, lifeless, and posed strangely. But what Betty Bersinger had stumbled upon wasn't a mannequin. It was the body of 22-year-old aspiring actress Elizabeth Short. Her body had been perfectly severed in two, and there wasn't a single drop of blood at the scene. The mutilated body of Elizabeth Short, brutally dismembered and left in a chilling, almost surgical display, was the beginning of one of America's most infamous unsolved crimes. A murder that would terrify Los Angeles, fascinate the world, and haunt generations. The fact that there was no blood at the crime scene led investigators to one unavoidable conclusion. Elizabeth Short had been killed elsewhere, her body meticulously cleaned, and then deliberately placed in that vacant lot. The way she was posed, with her arms bent at right angles, and a Glasgow smile carved into her face, felt like a statement, a message. What followed was a media frenzy unlike anything Los Angeles had ever seen. The press quickly coined a nickname for the victim, the Black Dahlia. Inspired partly by the popular 1946 film noir The Blue Dahlia, and partly by Elizabeth's striking appearance, her jet black hair, her preference for sheer black clothing, the name stuck. And it added a dark allure to an already chilling case. But who was Elizabeth Short? Born on July 29, 1924, in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, Elizabeth was one of 4 sisters. Her early life was far from easy. Her life was marred with family drama and health problems. When the stock market crashed in 1929, her father, Cleo Short, lost all their savings and soon after disappeared. His car was found abandoned near Boston's Charlestown Bridge. The family believed he had taken his own life. But in 1942, more than a decade later, Elizabeth's mother received a letter. It was from Cleo. He was alive. He'd faked his death and started a new life in California. Desperate for a fresh start, Elizabeth moved to live with him, but that arrangement didn't last long. She left his home in early 1943. Elizabeth's life after that was transient, fragmented. She moved between cities, from California to Florida and back again, and was constantly looking for stability. She was arrested in Santa Barbara for underage drinking and sent back to Massachusetts, only to return again to the West Coast in pursuit of stardom. Her health was fragile. She suffered from a respiratory condition and had to undergo surgery at age 16. Winters in Massachusetts were brutal on her lungs, so she often stayed with family friends in Florida to escape the cold. She dropped out of high school. Her dream was to make it big in Hollywood, to become a star. But Hollywood can be a cruel and unforgiving place. In Los Angeles, she floated from job to job, apartment to apartment. Friends and acquaintances described her as secretive, glamorous, and always surrounded by men. Men who gave her gifts, paid her bills, but never seemed to truly know her. Police would later discover that she carried an address book with the names of 75 men. Former police officer Vince Carter said her life in Hollywood followed a pattern. She didn't have any visible signs of employment. She'd be broke, and then, suddenly, have some money. Bartenders, roommates, hotel clerks. They all said the same thing. Elizabeth Short was a mystery, charming, elusive, and always on the move. In early January 1947, Elizabeth fled to San Diego, reportedly fearing an ex-boyfriend. She returned to Los Angeles on January 8th with a traveling salesman she had been dating. He dropped her off at the luxurious Biltmore Hotel downtown. That night, she was seen pacing the hotel lobby, making several panicked phone calls. Witnesses said she appeared frightened. At around 10 p.m., she walked out of the hotel and disappeared into the night. It was the last confirmed sighting of Elizabeth Short alive. A week later, on January 15th, her body was found. Police quickly identified her using fingerprints from her previous arrest. What struck investigators immediately was the brutal precision of the crime. Elizabeth's body had been surgically bisected at the waist, a method known as a hemicorporectomy. It was not only rare, but required medical knowledge. The FBI was brought in to support the LA police. In support of LA police, the FBI ran records checks on potential suspects and conducted interviews across the nation. Based on early suspicions that the murderer may have had skills in dissection because the body was so cleanly cut, agents were also asked to check out a group of students at the University of Southern California Medical School. The LAPD also began looking at medical professionals, especially students at the University of Southern California Medical School. And, in a tantalizing potential break in the case, the Bureau searched for a match to fingerprints found on an anonymous letter that may have been sent to authorities by the killer. But the prints weren't in FBI files. Dozens of leads came and went. Then, on January 24th, what many thought would be the breakthrough came. A suspicious package was mailed to the Los Angeles Examiner. Inside, Elizabeth's birth certificate, photographs, business cards, an address book. There was also a letter made from cut-out newspaper clippings. Here is Dahlia's belongings. The contents had been wiped clean with gasoline, just like Elizabeth's body, likely to remove fingerprints. But one partial print was found and smudged during analysis. The trail went cold. Over 100 suspects were interrogated. Many even confessed, falsely, but no charges were ever filed. And then, decades later, a retired LAPD detective made a chilling claim. He believed he had solved the case. His name was Steve Hodel. His suspect? His father. George Hodel was a prominent gynecologist in Los Angeles during the 1940s. He ran his own clinic and mingled with Hollywood's elite. He was brilliant, charismatic, and, according to Steve, a sadist. George Hodel had the surgical skills necessary to carry out such a brutal and precise mutilation. He was rumored to have dated Elizabeth Short. In 1949, Hodel was arrested and charged with incest, accused of sexually abusing his teenage daughter. Though acquitted, the scandal thrust him into the spotlight. And when the Black Dahlia case was reviewed by a grand jury later that year, George Hodel's name appeared on the suspect list. The LAPD wiretapped his home. What they heard was bone-chilling. "Supposin' I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now," George was heard saying. "They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead. Killed her. Maybe I did kill my secretary." Another tape captured him saying, "Realized there was nothing I could do. Put a pillow over her head and cover her with a blanket. Get a taxi. They thought there was something fishy. Anyway, now they may have figured it out. Killed her." With suspicion mounting, George Hodel fled Los Angeles. He moved to the Philippines in 1950 and remained there for the next 40 years. When George died in 1999, Steve Hodel dove into his father's past. What he uncovered was staggering. He found 5 witnesses, documented in newspapers, who claimed George had been romantically linked to Elizabeth Short. He found receipts for bags of cement George purchased days before the murder. Cement bags of the same brand were found near Elizabeth's body. Steve even discovered letters mailed to the Examiner that matched his father's handwriting. A handwriting expert confirmed it. And in a locked box, a haunting photo of a woman who looked exactly like Elizabeth Short. Though never definitively proven to be her, the resemblance was uncanny. George Hodel was also an admirer of surrealist art. Among his belongings were disturbing portraits by Man Ray, known for depicting mutilated female bodies in bizarre, stylized poses. But one photo struck Steve harder than the rest: a haunting image of a woman with dark, curled hair and piercing features, a face that looked eerily like the Black Dahlia. In 2018, Steve uncovered even more: a letter from a police informant claiming Elizabeth Short had been killed by someone with the initials G.H. Steve Hodel believes his father's motive was jealousy. Elizabeth had been involved with another man. He believes George Hodel was a sadist, a man driven by power and ego. The LAPD has never officially reopened the case, but Steve said he's made peace with the silence from law enforcement. In his own words, "My judge and jury are the public," he told The Guardian. "My readers, and they get it. The murder of Elizabeth Short remains officially unsolved, but her story and the image of that vacant lot on Norton Avenue endures in America's darkest lore. She came to Hollywood chasing stardom. Instead, she became an icon of tragedy, the Black Dahlia, beautiful, mysterious, and forever lost in the shadows of a city built on dreams and secrets. Time has passed, the city has changed, but the mystery of the Black Dahlia lingers, like fog in the early hours, like a whisper through Hollywood's golden hills. Justice never came for Elizabeth Short. Her name may have been twisted into legend, but beneath the mystery was a real woman, a daughter, a friend, a dreamer, who deserved more than the legacy of a gruesome headline. And so, we remember her not just for the darkness of her death, but for the light she tried to find in a city that never gave it back. Was the motive simply jealousy, or was it something far more sinister? Could the Black Dahlia have uncovered secrets someone was desperate to keep buried? Leave a comment with your thoughts or theories below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new story. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.